Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Jupiter's CROCK here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel, where we are slowly making our way through the entire series of Spartacus. We're on season 3, technically, War of the Damned, the final season of the original Spartacus. Of course, House of Asher's coming soon. We're very, very excited with it. And we're going to talk about episode 2, Wolves at the Gate, this week. Now, before we get into it, Ronan had an interesting little titty bit, whatever you want to call it.
Titty bit.
A titty bit. And normally when we do these sort of episodes, we're like, do we remember anything about these seasons before we go into them? So, for me personally, I remember like the last 2 episodes of this season very, very well, because there's a lot of like emotional sort of gut punching stuff that's just in my mind. I don't necessarily remember all of the ins and outs of where the story goes this season. It's more about the emotional devastation when Crixus dies for me personally. But Steve, what do you remember about War of the Damned? Do you pretty much know what's going to happen, or are you kind of like, all right, well, yeah, this isn't going to be new to me again?
I remember all of like the high points, or the big points. Like I remember how the show ends. I remember the general flow of events, but things like Cassinius and Furious in episode 1, like I didn't remember them at all. Like in my head, the season just kind of started with Spartacus is in a city. So I remember like the very like high level moments throughout the season.
How about you, Ronan?
Yeah, like I said, I think I've rewatched this show, like War of the Damned, maybe twice. I do, like, yeah, I remember, like, okay, yeah, they take over a city. There's a very kind of a very like oh my god, oh no, please don't do that, no god, of a certain somebody getting literally bent over a table. That'll be a couple of episodes from now. We'll come back.
I'm gonna let Matt talk about that one.
Yeah. We'll come back to that. And you guys are like you listener at home. You're going to be like, oh god, that's what Ronan was talking about. Oh no. But my thought on War of the Damned was always, it's probably the weakest series out of all of them. But I think that's mostly just because of the fact that like it's the shortest. And it has a lot of story. It has to cram into a lot of episodes, a lot of fast.
Yeah,
and so it doesn't. It kind of suffers for that. Like we mentioned that in the last episode, how things seem to be like they just kind of breeze past things and condense things down very quickly.
Yeah, that was my initial remembrance as well. Is like it was just too much too quickly, and I would have liked the season to breathe a little bit more, but we'll see if that's actually the case as we continue to revisit it. So with that, Steve, we're into episode 2, Wolves at the Gate. What's this one all about?
All right, so this is essentially like 2 different stories. There's like a Crassus story and a Spartacus story, and I'm going to talk about them separately because they really don't interact a whole hell of a lot throughout this episode.
Style of the time.
But so I'm going to start with the Crassus side, and actually I need to back up to last episode because there was a not important but a cool scene from the last episode with Crassus that we didn't talk about. We mentioned that he was fighting with the gladiator Hilarius, but we didn't talk about how that fight ended. So the end
of
the
second fight.
Yeah, the second fight. One of the final plot moments of episode 1 is Crassus continuing to train with Hilarius, and Crassus is pissed. He is angry. He is like huffing and puffing and like not yelling, but just kind of like almost growling at Hilarius. And Hilarius is like, what did I do something? Like, what's going on here? I didn't mean to offend.
At first he's like, well, yeah, I understand, Dominus. It's frustration. It can take a while to master technique. I understand the frustration. And that's when Crassus lashes out at him. It's like, my frustration is that you're not taking me seriously.
Yes, like Crassus can tell that Hilarius is holding back, which makes sense if Hilarius can't kill his Dominus. And so back in the first fight, there's a moment where we mentioned where Crassus gets his arm sliced by Hilarious, and Hilarious is like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna die now." But Crassus says, I basically I deserve this for not protecting myself. And Hilarious tells him, Hilarious is essentially a coach at this point, and it's like, you're very good, but when you feel like you're winning, when you feel like you have the advantage, you just kind of you open your flank. You don't protect yourself, and so that's going to be important in this second fight. The second fight, Crassus is continuing to train. He's upset. And basically what Ronan said, Crassus is upset that Hilarious is holding back, essentially. And so Crassus tells Hilarious, like, I need you to go all out. Like, there's no way that I can beat Spartacus if I can't beat you. So I need you to fight me at full strength. And Hilarious says that you're basically asking me to kill myself. It's like, if I lose, then you kill me. And if I win, then I've killed you, and all of your people here will kill me. And so Crassus says, Tiberius, weasel-faced kid of mine, bear witness to this. Like, this is going to be an honest fight to the death. If Hilarious wins, he is to be given his freedom and 10,000 denarii. And so Crassus tells him, like, hey, are you in or are you out on this deal? And Hilarious says, I'm in. And they fight, and Hilarious is kicking Crassus's ass. Like, he is making a joke out of Crassus. But then...
There's a switch that gets switched on. Like, Crassus was not ready for this.
Yeah, he, what are the kids saying today? Hilarious went goblin mode, or whatever that stupid bullshit is.
Like, he fucked around and was about to find out. It was more or less, like, he went beast mode, or whatever it is the kids are saying.
Yes, we're
Matt,
very
what
old.
are the kids saying now?
I don't know, man. I'm not into hanging out with little kids. I don't know about you, but I can only speak for myself.
Thank you for that vote of confidence, my dear friend. Anyways, so Crassus and Hilarious are fighting, and Crassus gets angry, and so he goes in for the kill, which is the same thing that he did in the first fight, the thing that Hilarious warned him about. And so Hilarious thinks, okay, I'm about to win this fight. And so Hilarious disarms Crassus, because Crassus has left his flank open, and then he swings at Crassus. And what Crassus does, this is like, of all the violence in this show, this is like what makes my skin crawl. Crassus grabs the blade with his bare hands and yanks the sword out of Hilarious's hand, and then stabs Hilarious with the sword. Again, Crassus is gripping the blade by the blade itself. Like, blood is pouring out of his own hands. But he still takes that sword away and stabs Hilarious. Hilarious dies, but not before acknowledging that basically Crassus, learned something. Hilarious figured out that Crassus purposely went through those motions to make Hilarious think that Crassus was making the same mistake as last time. And so now when Hilarious thought victory was at hand, then Crassus struck and won. Crassus says something to the effect of, strategy is the only way to beat someone with more skill. Crassus and Hilarious have a moment where they kind of they show honor and respect to one another. Crassus says, the money that you would have won, I will take and actually erect a monument to your glory as a gladiator. And Hilarious dies happy, essentially. This is a cool scene.
Guys. Yeah, I just looked it up. 1 denarii in ancient Rome was the equivalent of $43.50 today. So that would have been $435,000 back then that Hilarious would have got had he won.
Freedom and $500,000. Anyways, so before we talk about episode 2, that scene, any thoughts? I thought that scene was awesome and another great demonstration of who Crassus is as a character.
It was so awesome, we forgot all about it. Brilliant.
It makes you.
I remembered it, but you guys were talking for 3 hours about stuff at the end of the last episode.
It just drives home the point of, this guy's going to end Spartacus here. This ain't gonna end well for Spartacus. This is a guy on a different level than what Spartacus is at. It's sad, is what it is, Steve. It's sad. It's the beginning of the end. That's what it is.
Beginning of the end. Crassus is also very big about earning things. He he was not just going to buy a position as a Roman commander. He was going to earn it. He was going to, make Rome grant him this position, which is another thing
by
that's going to
killing
get
the
referenced this
messengers.
episode.
Yeah, yeah, he was gonna earn it through he was gonna earn it in that same way that Elon Musk really actually earned his daddy's blood diamond money. No, it's like,
Hey,
don't get me wrong, Crassus is a smart, fun villain, but no, he's like all rich motherfuckers. He's a wily little cocksucker who's doing a lot of planning in the background to take leaps and bounds. So if he really wanted to earn it, he would have joined the military. No, he's looking for shortcuts.
He earned it in a way that was not just writing a check, and I think that's what's important to Crassus here.
That's a fair enough assumption. So he didn't just write a check. He came up with a strategy to leapfrog several jumps ahead.
Do we ever really learn why the main Romans don't want to deal with him, though? Because that's the thing. He is the richest man in Rome, but he has to have some sort of reputation, because nobody in the Senate wants to deal with this guy at all. We don't want to owe him a favor. Why? We never get that kind of backstory.
Again, I think that they're trying but they don't have enough time to really set him up. The way that a good chunk of how Crassus made his fortune was doing stuff he invested in a fire department in Rome, and then but they would conveniently get to fires a little bit too late to actually be able to salvage the situation, and then Crassus would show up while the place was burning and try to get the owner of the property to sell it to him for super cheap. But you can sell it to me at this price, or it can burn to nothing, and then I'll pay you $2 for it. That was part of how he got his money. He also
sounds like earning it to me.
There was also a point where I forget the exact details of it, but he more or less robbed a woman of all of her money via seducing her, and when they were taken to court, he beat the charge by saying, "I wasn't interested in her body, I just wanted her money," and he beat the charge that way.
Sounds like earning things. Anyways, we are on a time limit. Let's talk about this fucking episode. All right, so I'm going to divide this up into what happens with Crassus and what happens with Spartacus. So let's talk about Crassus first. First time we see him, he has given his son, Weaselface, is trying to earn his daddy's respect and also a position within his daddy's army. He wants to be the second in command, and so he and his friend, whose name I don't remember at this point, they are trying to go above and beyond to impress Daddy Crassus. And so one of the first missions that Weaselface has is to procure weapons for the army. And so Weaselface has Crassus come and meet, a forge master or something. And Crassus is kind of not impressed. This guy's like, "Oh, this is my finest offering, and here's the price." And Crassus is like, how about you tell me about your second best offering? and so that's presented. And then Crassus is not impressed, but the blacksmith guy says, "Well, I'm happy to offer it to you at this price, which is what your son agreed to." And at this point, Crassus kind of feels backed into a corner, he's given his son this authority, and
he turns and gives the kid a look that tells that screams and tells you everything going on in his brain.
Yeah, Crassus is not impressed by the deal that has been struck, but he accepts that a deal is a deal. And so he says, "All right, sign me up. I accept this offer." But Crassus has to leave.
Terms are agreeable.
He's got shit to do today. And what is that shit to do, Matt? Who enters the scene? Who enters the story at this point?
Julius fucking Caesar.
And that is who he is throughout the rest of this. Julius fucking Caesar. So Julius fucking Caesar was essentially kidnapped by Crassus's men, and he is very unhappy about this. Julius fucking Caesar comes in, and he's disheveled. He's got long hair and a scruffy beard, and I think we pointed this out in our discussion during last season. It was very un-Roman to essentially have facial hair and to not be like cleanly washed and shaved and whatnot. So Caesar is not looking very Roman right now. He's very upset that Crassus has kidnapped him. He's about to leave, but then Crassus shows up, and so Crassus and Julius fucking Caesar have a little powwow. And the gist is, Julius fucking Caesar has a famous name. I mean, it's right there, Julius fucking Caesar. Everyone knows that. But JFC does not have money. Meanwhile, Crassus has money but does not have a famous name. And so Crassus and Julius fucking Caesar decide to combine Caesar's name with Crassus's money. They are going to lead the charge against Spartacus, and while doing that, they are going to become incredibly powerful. Name plus money, they're going to get everything they want. And
One could say they're going to form a duumvirate. That's a historical nod. Like people who get it get it. Keep going, Steve.
Anyways,
can I say real quick?
Yes.
I think what's interesting about Caesar is I've seen a lot of like Roman historical epics and stuff. I don't think we've ever seen a young Caesar in any show or movie before, and this guy's like jacked. He's like, fuck you, I'm gonna do whatever I want. I mean, this is a Caesar I don't think we've ever seen. We always see like the older statesman Caesar.
They're right about the just about to be stabbed old Caesar.
Yeah.
Yes.
We see Caesar who's just a tad shy of getting knifed in the back. That's when we always see him.
You get old, but you never see like young Caesar, and I love there's no real historical evidence that Caesar was ever involved in the Spartacus stuff, but I love that they throw him in here as like an extra villain, because then you're really like, oh shit. I mean, there's really no chance that Spartacus and the boys are going to get out of this one now, because he's just so dynamic, and it's awesome. The actor's awesome.
He was absolutely 100% alive during the time of the Spartacus rebellion, because he even historically wrote, because some of the stuff we have, like the historical information we have, comes from Julius Caesar, because he wrote about it because he was alive while the war was happening, but he never fought in the actual war.
All right, well, he's going to fight in this one. In someone's headcanon, Julius fucking Caesar fought Spartacus. Julius fucking Caesar goes to take a bath. He's going to get shaved, and then Corey Cray, I still don't know how to pronounce her name, she pops in and says...
Corey.
Yeah, I'm just going to call her Corey. So Corey comes in and says, wait, Mr. fucking Caesar, Crassus has demanded that you not be shaved. For whatever reason, he has plans for your fucking beard. And so Caesar's like, fine, yeah, I'm not happy, but how about you take your clothes off and maybe that'll take the edge off a little bit. So Caesar begins undressing Corey, and Corey is not happy about this, but she is a slave, so she can't really do much about it. And Crassus comes in and like chastises Mr. fucking Caesar and says, like, she was not sent to you as a gift. Like, we've got shit to talk about. Crassus is very...
Apologies.
Yes. Caesar says, apologies, I didn't know that she held meaning. Like, it would have been completely okay as long as, no one gave a shit about Corey. But because people give a shit about Corey, now this assault that was about to happen is, very, very wrong
because
suddenly.
Two people care about her. Weaselface and Crassus. That's all it takes.
Weaselface cares about her. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yes.
Did you notice that Corey looks like the actress who was like Onemaeus's wife?
I thought the same thing.
That too.
Yeah, they look very similar, and even Crassus's actual wife, the blonde, kind of looks a little bit like Ilithia.
I thought the same thing. I thought the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Speaking
of
triumvirate,
that would be called like a triumvirate we've done here. That's a historical term, Steve. If you get it, you get it. Triumvirate, right?
I was going to make that reference several episodes from now, Matt. It was going to pay off.
We're not changing the name. All right, this will not be the triumvirate cast or whatever. Does Crassus's wife do anything of note in this season? I don't think she does, which is why I haven't really talked about her.
I don't even think she appears again. I don't.
No.
And I'm pretty sure she doesn't, because when I listened to the audio commentary track, Stephen DeKnight said that they had plans to bring her back later in the season, but then it turned out there was too much shit going on. They just
All right. Well, Crassus is married, and that
long
is
story
completely
short,
meaningless.
that means she never gets naked. So,
Yes.
sad face. There's no
Anyways, Caesar tries to put the moves on Corey. Crassus stops Caesar, and Corey is very upset about this. And Crassus's wife chastises her, like, it's your fault. Like, look at the way you were dressed, slave.
You were asking for it.
That's
so
problematic.
Very problematic. So she chastises Corey.
Mentions something about her tits looking like they're plied with milk and honey or something.
Yeah,
like
and her
that.
ass hanging out or something. It's like, jeez, she's only wearing what you allow her to wear. Damn.
Anyways, so Corey runs away like crying after being chastised by her domina. She briefly sees Weaselface, and Weaselface asks, what happened? And Corey says, Caesar laid hands on me, and Tiberius is like, wait a minute, fucking Caesar's here, like Mr. fucking Caesar? And so they rob. And so like a running like plot point through the rest of this episode is both Caesar and Weaselface are trying to become Crassus's second in command, and both of them think that they have the job. Weaselface thinks he's going to be second in command, and Mr. fucking Caesar believes that he's going to be second in command. We don't actually find out who's going to be second in command until the end of the episode, or at least the end of Crassus's plot in this episode. But Weaselface and Caesar are going back and forth. It certainly looks like Caesar is going to be the second in command. But Crassus has a moment with Corey. Crassus and Corey are very close. Crassus's wife tries to join Crassus at the camp, and Crassus essentially writes her out of the episode by saying, no, don't come with me. Writes her out of the season by saying, no, I don't want you to come with me. So Crassus tells his wife, stay here. I need to know that you're safe. Hey, Corey, would you like to join me on the road to War with Spartacus? And so Crassus and Corey have a moment, and Corey basically tells him that, you need to give Tiberius a chance. And so with that in mind, later on in the episode, we'll find out if Crassus took that comment to heart. But the really important thing here is Crassus basically tells Corey, it's like, hey, there's something between us. Like, I want you to come with me if that is what you want, but I am not commanding it. I am not your dominus right now. I am just a man, and I want you. And Corey says, let's do it. Yes, and she calls him
prime fuckboy shit right here. Prime fuckboy shit.
She calls him Marcus. So she does not call him Dominus. She calls him by his name. And so at this point, these two have as consensual of a relationship as two people in this scenario could have. Regardless,
I don't think Crassus doesn't really see her as a slave. Like, he loves her, and I think that obviously he would have her be his wife if he could. But yeah, he looks at her as like
I know enough from what happens later on in the show. I don't think so. No.
We'll see.
Ultimately, she's just disposable.
Well, at this moment in the series, these two people are choosing to have a relationship, and the impression I got
was consent here in this
scene. The impression that I got was if she had said no, Crassus would have respected it. But anyway, so they fuck, but not before Corey says, hey, you give your kid a chance. And so then at the end of the episode, Crassus and Caesar and Weaselface are meeting, and there's like a special sword, and whoever holds the sword is the second in command, and Crassus chooses Weaselface, much to the great anger of Julius fucking Caesar. So Weaselface is like, fuck yeah.
Remember, Weaselface, though, before this, sees, I don't know, well, I guess we find out maybe a little bit later, like, this, Jesus, or Julius fucking Caesar sitting there and has this slave woman, like, sawing away at his ball sack or something.
It looks like she's doing something else to him.
Yeah, it looks like he's getting a blowjob, but she's actually, we'll find out what
But
this
he's
what
week later
bleeding
on.
all
happens.
over. They
Yes.
show him bleeding.
Yes, she's cutting a piece of flesh off of his leg. To what
Yeah.
end, we don't know yet. That will get paid off later in the season.
But he basically throws it in Weasel Face's face that hey man, you're nothing here. I'm gonna be the second in command.
Yeah, you're
kick
going to
rocks.
answer to me.
Yeah.
But just get ready for great glories under my command is what he's telling him.
Yes. But that doesn't happen. So Weaselface is made second in command pretty much just because Corey got naked and told Crassus to do it. And so
Women
you know,
have that power, Steve.
Yep, they do. They
got that
absolutely
power.
do. So Weaselface has won this initial battle with Julius fucking Caesar, and Caesar is pissed. He is so fucking angry. He is about to leave this this partnership, but Crassus tells him like, "Hey, let's go through. Let's do this right. Like to beat Spartacus, everything that I put into place right now needs to happen. Like." Trust me on this. You are gonna get what you were owed. I bribed a bunch of like Roman politicians to give you this lofty title that
Because he's totally into people earning things.
he's totally into him earning things. So he's bribed people to give Caesar this special title that in other areas of Roman life puts him above Weaselface. But as of now, Weaselface is second in command, and Julius fucking Caesar is accepting. He's not happy about it, but at this point, he's still willing to trust Crassus. And so I think that's the end of Crassus's segment of this episode. So thoughts on that?
That's cool. I mean, it's showing sort of like the best parts of this whole entire show is when you think something's going to go one way and then they pull the rug out from under you and then the characters think, oh my god. And that's kind of what happened here. Like I said, it sets up that Julius fucking Caesar. He gets that great intro where he's like beating the shit out of people, when he's trying to leave and stuff. And you're like, okay, it's Julius fucking Caesar. Of course he's going to ride to glory with this. And then you get that sort of like the show never really go when it's at its highest. It never goes where you suspect it's gonna go, and so I think that's a really cool aspect of it. And it just shows Crassus's cunning nature, as we'll soon see.
All right, so on to Spartacus. Spartacus's plot point in this episode has even more moving parts, so I'm going to do my best here. Spartacus has agreed with everyone that he needs to find a city, and he thinks, who knows cities better than Horse Guy from the previous episode? And so
he's an expert in cities, clearly.
Yeah, so he calls in Horse Guy, the horse butcher, and says, hey, you previously mentioned that you were like from this amazing city, like point to it on the map. And so he points to it, and Spartacus is like, all right, we're gonna take this city, but there's a problem. Weapons are collected at the gates. Like Spartacus can't just like attack this city. There's walls, there's a gate. They will be denied entry, and so their plan is to infiltrate the city and unlock the gate at night. But no weapons are allowed in the city. So, like, Spartacus has to get in, and then he has to procure weapons. And so the plan is Spartacus, Crixus, and Gannicus are going to... They keep leaving Agron behind, the best one. The three of them are going to go into the city, and there's two people that they can deal with. Horse Guy says, hey, if you're in trouble, mention my old master's name. He's an asshole, but, his name carries weight. And then Gannicus also says, hey, I'm friends with, like, the blacksmith in town. He can make us some swords. Like, he is, by blood a Roman, but he gives no fucks about Rome. Like, he will help us. He is basically, for sale to the highest bidder. And so they go into the city, and they go meet the blacksmith, whose name is like Addius or something. Like, what's his name? Addius, Atticus, something. I don't know. It starts with an A. A blacksmith. Mr. A blacksmith says, okay, I'll make you some swords. Gannicus says, I'm going to hang out with my friend, Mr. A blacksmith. And Spartacus sends Crixus back to get the army ready. And Spartacus is just going to go meander around the city and see what he can see. And he presents himself as like a businessman. He's going to buy grain. and he ends up running into a new character named Leta.
Her name is Love Interest, Steve. That's what her name is.
Yes, Leta, the love interest. She is what's her husband's title? Like Adile, like something like that.
Dead
Something
guy.
like that,
title.
yeah.
No comment. Thanks, guys. Basically, like I'm just gonna call him the fucking mayor. She is married to the mayor of this town,
There you
and he is like he's in charge of all the business in town, and so she is he's got to. He controls the grain essentially, and Spartacus wants to know that this city has enough food for his army, and so he runs into Leta, the love interest. Now Leta is played by Anna Hutchinson, who of course her most famous role is the Yellow Ranger from Power Rangers Jungle Fury. So I will be referring to her as Yellow Ranger throughout the rest of the season.
Oh,
so
see, I thought you were gonna say from Cabin in the Woods, when she has that famous sort of scene where she's making out with the head of the wolf or whatever on the wall.
Nope, she's the Yellow Ranger.
Yellow Ranger.
I was wondering why the fuck you were posting like a Power Rangers gif in the chat, and it's like, oh,
she is
okay.
the Yellow Cheetah Ranger from Power Rangers Jungle Fury. So
Of
Yellow.
course she is.
This is the second like Power Rangers connection because
cares. Keep
Barca's
going.
love
Keep
interest
going.
was the
Nobody
Red Ranger
cares.
from Power Rangers RPM. I care. This is important. Yellow Ranger and Spartacus are going around town. Like a slave gets stoned to death while yelling Spartacus's name over and over again.
Spartacus has to watch. They're all watching it
Yeah.
too.
And
That's
Spartacus at first is like, we have to stop this, and Crixus stops. Is like, no, like you can't do this. Like we have to
We're
let this
all
guy
gonna
die.
bro.
But it's Spartacus to the point that we made last episode. Spartacus's name is getting around. Like the whole reason that weapons are not allowed in the city is like fear of rebellion by the slaves within the town. And the Romans are like, I don't get it. Why are these precious slaves that we love and treat like family? Why are they rebelling against us? I just don't fucking get it. Anyway.
We smashed them with rocks.
Spartacus is led around by Yellow Ranger. They part ways. They go back to a blacksmith, and the blacksmith says, "Here you go, 2 swords." But now there's a problem. The problem is Spartacus didn't know that there was a curfew, so Spartacus can't just walk around the streets at night and make his way to the gate and open it. So now they have to have a distraction, and so they essentially blackmail the blacksmith, and they tell him like, "Hey, We'll give you money. Here's 5,000 denarii, so you can leave Rome and go live a life somewhere else. But you have to help us. Like, if we fail in the attempt and they find that we have weapons that we shouldn't have, they're going to know that you created them." And so the blacksmith creates a distraction. He ends up locking a bunch of Romans in like the armory. Spartacus and Gannicus open the gates. In come the army, and the Spartacus's army, like, they pillage. Like, this is like, they are bad guys in this scene. They are just killing and maiming indiscriminately. They are not being heroes right now. And Spartacus is like disgusted by this. Like, this is not what he wanted. I don't know what he wanted, what he thought that was going to go down, but he did not want this. And so he stops the rest of the slaughter. But then and he says that that all of the remaining Romans are to be chained up, and we're going to we're going to take care of them. We're not murderers today.
We're not murderers now. We've had our fill of Roman blood.
Now
Yes.
they will be our slaves.
Yes. Spartacus now has a city, and he has prisoners. But now there's another new problem. Yellow Ranger's husband, the town mayor, has locked himself in a room with all of the food, and he's pouring pitch all over it, and he's going to light it all on fire and destroy the food stores. Like, he accepts that the town is lost. He's not going to let Spartacus claim the supplies too. And so Spartacus tells Yellow Ranger, "Hey, go tell your husband to stop. Tell your husband to stop this, and he will live. Like, we will not harm another Roman person, but if he destroys
Fast
all
forward
of the
to
food."
Crixus jumping the wall and killing him.
Yes. The deal that Spartacus made, though, was if he destroys all of the food, I will not be able to stop all of my army from killing the remaining Romans. So, like, the lives of all the current survivors are hanging in the balance here. Go tell your husband to stop this. Oh, by the way, Crixus is sneaking up behind him, and so the Crixus rather kills the husband. And this scene always stood out with me to me as strange. Like, is this the first instance of Spartacus really like double crossing someone? I feel like in previous episodes, like when he makes a promise to someone, he keeps it.
Yes, and Stephen DeKnight actually brought that up on the audio commentary track, where that basically this was a no-win situation for Spartacus. That they made a choice to write it this way because he had to make a hard choice here. He just had to do it, and he had to use her to be able to get it. And he still almost fails if it wasn't for superhero Crixus grabbing the fucking torch like 1 inch before it hits it. But yeah, they did mention that that was a difficult thing in the writer room for them to have to do for Spartacus.
All right, so that's it for this scene for now. Like, Spartacus lies essentially to meet his goals, to get the food and keep his army fed. But I want to come back to this scene in a future recording because they changed the context of the scene in a later episode. But again, we'll come back to that. Spartacus has the food. He's got the city. Spartacus has achieved all of his goals this day. He's got prisoners. He's got walls. He's got everything he needs to ride out the winter. And now we just wait to see at what point will Crassus and Spartacus intersect. The end. Did I miss anything? Feel free to jump in at any time.
Indeed. So I mentioned in the last episode that this historical incident happened much earlier in the Spartacus War, and a matter of fact, it happened several times. What Spartacus's army was known to do to the villas that it came across was much worse than what is shown in the show, because if the show actually depicted what a lot of the things that his think what the Japanese army did in World War II. That's the kind of shit that his army would get up to when they came across Roman villas and towns. It was horrible fucking shit. Spartacus historically was known to have not been down with it and always tried to stop it. But historically, despite the fact that the real life Spartacus, people did view him as as a tool of the goddess Dionysus, so they did view him as a divine figure. They still didn't listen to him when it came to shit like this.
Speaking of guys with weird names, Horse Guy dies.
Yes. R.I.P. Horse Guy. So Spartacus's position on these sort of things was that he always tried to stop them. For whatever reason, we don't historically know Crixus's viewpoint on it. For when these things went down, his opinion was never put down in the historical record. But we know Spartacus did not like when his troops would get on like this. But yeah, what happened here is absolutely what his without condoning what happened, because you got to bear in mind, these slaves have been, the Romans had done shit like this to these slaves their entire lives. They have seen this kind of brutality. So, of course, the minute the shackle is broken, they're going to dish out vengeance.
They hate
Doesn't make
Romans.
it right.
That's the thing. They're like, the show already sets up, they love killing Romans. Gannicus and Crixus and Agron are like, fuck yeah, we're killing Romans. This is amazing. So
by Romans, it's always been soldiers. It's never been soldiers or the elite. Yeah, in the first season when the Ludus, when they kill all of Capua's elites, and we had seen all of these elite people do terrible shit throughout the course of the show, so it's cathartic when it happens. This is the first time when it's just Joe Everyman, poor Roman citizen, normal Roman citizen who's just out buying grain and shit.
When we see Yellow Ranger for the first time, there's another Roman who's basically saying my wife is pregnant food and I can't afford bread. Like these are not like, as far as we know, unless there's a lot of discount slavery, like these are not Romans that all have access to the terrible things that Romans have done.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think
Slaves
just,
cost money.
So, like, I think when people are oppressed, like all the slaves in Rome were, I don't think that they sort of differentiate. Oh, this is a nice Roman versus the person who's been whipping me. They just think Rome. They hate Romans because Romans have created the infrastructure and allowed this sort of thing to continue for the oppression. So they just take it out on everybody. And I do think that
100%.
And I do think it's a critique maybe of this season when we're sort of talking about how compressed it feels. I think a couple more episodes of just sort of like showing how, like, hey, there are good Romans here. Maybe even Romans who are against the slavery, the whole like concept of it. They don't come across as like bad people. That kind of thing, I think, would have lent itself a lot better because you could have really made the viewer, instead of being like, yeah, okay, I'm anti-Roman, I'm pro Spartacus and all of his people, but throw that kind of stuff in there, make characters, and maybe Yellow Power Ranger is kind of one of those characters a little bit, but make
she points out like she's kind of sarcastic, being like, oh, I can't imagine why the slaves would turn against us with how well we treat them.
But that's the thing. Like, you could have had characters who were actual Romans who were maybe against this and maybe had feelings of like, yeah, I kind of want to help Spartacus here. I kind of want to help him do,
historically that happened. There were Romans who defected and joined because they were just disillusioned with Rome. Historically, that happened. I want to
see that in the show. But we don't get it with the compressed schedule.
No, we would. Even if they hadn't compressed it, I don't think we would have gotten that, because then suddenly you're making the show very complex.
We got the old guy in season 2, the old guy at the temple.
That's true.
Yeah, but at that point, if you do what we're talking about, you have to suddenly, Spartacus and his gang can't be superheroes anymore because
I don't necessarily like them being superheroes, though. That's
I understand. I understand that you don't like them. I'm not even defending them being superheroes, because at this point, I think it's more of like a budgetary thing. We have to focus on like the core gang. We have to focus on like the gang from like every episode being Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The gang kills 3 praetors. That kind of. It has to be told like that because a budgetary reason. You can't just always show massive hordes of armies fighting. That cost a lot of money. But it wouldn't have appealed to a mass audience because now you have to show the complexity. Suddenly these characters have to be they have to have shades of gray. That's why this massacre happens once. We're supposed to see it and be like, oh, that's terrible, and nothing else like this happens again in scale. There is I do recall, I don't know what episode it is. It's probably another episode or 2 from now. But a fan favorite character gives in to blind hatred and just slaughters somebody for no good reason later on in an episode. And there is no comeuppance for it. It just happens. Like, oh, yep, we're just going to kill this innocent person for no reason outside of the fact that I just felt like it. You kind of get the feeling that it should. That's several episodes now. I don't want to get into it too much, but the show doesn't get that complicated because let's just be real. Americans don't like complicated things like that. We want to have the good guy and the bad guy.
I think it'd been cooler if they would have put a little bit more complexity in it. Is all I'm saying.
I agree, but they wouldn't have, just because you can't tell that kind of story. They're not going to do that.
All right. Okay, fair enough.
Steve?
Agree. Are you guys both out of this hand?
Yes, yeah. I'm out of this hand.
I have a straight. I'm going all in.
Okay, good luck. So happy for you. I hope you win. I hope you win everything you've ever wanted.
But it doesn't look like you've got a lot left. This is
but it's just setting up things for the future. It doesn't really accomplish anything on its own.
Yeah. And Stephen DeKnight said on the audio commentary track that they had a problem where they were like, where do we go with this? I mean, obviously Spartacus and them are out in the countryside pillaging and stuff, but he's like, but we, for budgetary reasons, Ronan, getting to your point, like they had to do something where for the next 5 or 6 episodes, they're not out, on the fields of battle, because they wouldn't be able to afford that. And so the writers actually like, well, how about we have him take a city? And then they went and looked at the history and like, oh, he actually did. So that's our excuse to sort of keep them pretty much, on the sets that we've built to save money and everything like that.
I like how they came up with the idea and then looked at the historical record.
Yeah,
like, oh,
right.
shit!
Yeah. We do get introduced, I don't remember her name, but the girl who sort of becomes infatuated with
Sybil.
Gannicus. Sybil. We do get sort of introduced to her in this episode. She becomes a much more important character as we go on, as, Gannicus comes in and then saves her from the asshole dude.
But I want to talk about that scene for a minute because Horse Guy comes in,
Yep.
and Horse
That
Guy
should
is
have been
trying.
his moment.
Yeah, Horse Guy comes in and he tries to rescue the remaining slaves that were left behind with his Dominus, and his Dominus just comes out and kills him. And then in comes Navia and Gannicus, and Navia kills the Dominus, and Gannicus walks in, doesn't even acknowledge that Horse Guy was there, just throws the keys to the other slaves and leaves, and then Sybil starts making googly eyes at him. And to be fair, I would too. But there's no acknowledgement. Navia acknowledges it, but everyone else just immediately moves on from Horse Guy because Gannicus was there for 5 seconds.
Poor Horse Guy.
Gannicus probably doesn't even remember the fact that he just spoke with Horse Guy within the context of the show a couple of minutes ago. But Navia, because she did have a moment with him trying to teach him stuff, so it makes some sense that she would get a little moment. But yeah, no, I agree. It's just so weird. It's why is there even an acknowledgement for this character who we can't even be bothered to remember his name? He is just fucking Horse Guy.
It was Dionysus or Diometus or something. It started with a D.
Horse Guy, okay?
It started with a D. D Horse Guy. The Horse Guy, that's his name.
I think that I agree with you, Steve. I don't think this is the greatest episode in terms of cool stuff, but this is the episode that we get Julius fucking Caesar, and I think his intro and how he's introduced and how the actor portrays him is very memorable. So we do sort of get that. But I personally I don't care about the Yellow Ranger.
Yellow Ranger's great. Caesar comes in, and he's taking a bath, and in comes Corey. And Caesar just stands there completely naked, walks up to Corey, and is like, how do you judge Caesar? Just like a badass. Uncomfortable, but badass.
Yeah.
How do you gauge Caesar?
The dude's a boss.
We need Rachel for episodes like this. Rachel, how do you gauge Caesar?
Then there was a funny thing on the audio commentary where Stephen DeKnight, they were talking about all the nudity in the show, and he actually mentioned, he's like, well, in the first season, Manu Bennett would just get fully naked at the drop of the hat, and then suddenly he stopped, and it's like they couldn't get any of the main character of the guys to ever get naked really again, which he thought was kind of funny and interesting. So yeah, Caesar's a badass.
There's a distinct lack of Caesar dick in this season.
He does not. You see his ass, but you don't see a full frontal like Crix's.
Yeah, as opposed to the first season where it's there was full ball. That I even recall in the
just
the
one
commentary.
singular.
just one ball. I recall in the first season's commentary track when they were doing the nude scenes, because where they were shooting was fucking cold. They were keeping these warm bags of water over their cock and balls so that way they wouldn't get shrinky dink.
Yeah, well, that first scene, when you see Crixus walk around, it was just Manu Bennett's I'll do the whole scene completely naked. You can film whatever you want, and they filmed him full frontal, wandering around talking to Spartacus. You don't
go strongest of my kind.
Yeah, it's I wonder if that is in the Tubi versions. Do you think they cut out?
I imagine every episode of season 1 is 7 minutes.
that scene is there, but it's like super zoomed in, and it's
They probably
really
cropped it.
It's really blurry because they're zooming in a lot higher than the original image was ever meant to be. So
Yeah,
it's
they
blurry
probably
and
cropped it or
pixelated.
something. Yeah. But yeah, overall, this is an okay episode. But Julius fucking Caesar, I love that character. Him and Crassus, and like, okay, shit's about to go down. Like, we're all fucked now. All of our people that we've loved for the past 4 seasons, they're all fucked.
All right. Well, this is. I think we've
Is this
said
the
all we
next
need to
hand?
say. The next hand. The next hand. We go all in. Matt has to buy back in. We might have to wait for Matt.
I just went all in.
Okay. Well, do you have money left? Because now you got to go all in again.
God damn it! All right, here we go. Here we go. Well, let's see. We have to
wait for Matt.
We have to wait for Matt to buy in. All right, we got like 7 minutes. All right. Matt's back in, but he can't play this hand. I'm just
yeah. So let me look. So next episode is called Men of Honor. And I got nothing else to say.
Riveting.
Thanks for that. Thanks a lot.
Oh, I will give another piece of interesting titty bits for this. I took a few notes, and that same lady who was on that very first episode, she said that they actually had to create 20 different merkins for actresses for the full frontal. So obviously most actresses don't have hair down there, and so they didn't want their bits and bobs sort of showing. So she actually had the exact number, 20 different merkins this season for various actresses that wanted to go fully nude but didn't want to show, full vag.
Didn't want to show any more morning dew. Any kidneys.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do they get to? Okay, so like while we wait for Matt to come into the next hand. Okay, so so they sign us up, the 3 of us, extras for Spartacus, and then we're asked, do you want? If any of you guys want to go full nude, we'll put you get to be prominently. Do you go full nude to be an extra in Spartacus? Steve,
no,
go.
No one would ever ask me to get naked on camera. Have you seen me? I have. It's terrible.
Matt, would you go full nude to be an extra in Spartacus?
I guess it depends on the context of what the full
is. Alithia is she going to be there too?
Bullshit.
Yeah, if Alithia's there, Ronan, if Alithia's there and she's judging me as her
we're
next
going all
body
in blind.
slave, maybe, Ronan, maybe. But I will say, you got to have some context. Are we ripped like all of the gladiators on this show, or are we our natural
we're just common slaves. And so we're gonna be we're gonna have like the skinny pot bellies and everything.
But do they have unattractive people as just the general slaves in the show? I feel like
that's what I'm saying.
Do you not remember the whorehouse orgy in season 2? There were plenty of just normal looking skinny guys.
I assumed that all of the not bodybuilders in this show are Romans, though. I would assume that they were not slaves.
And the correct answer is yes, of course you go full frontal, so that way you get to be a prominent extra in Spartacus. That is a story you get to tell for the rest of your life. It's I went full cock and balls in Spartacus. That's a power play move.
It's just us.
I might, depending on the context, Ronan. I need to know the context. The
context is you get to. This sucks. This sucks, by the way.
This is real bad. This is real bad.
Come on, ace or 6.
It's just the 3 of us, too.
Bullshit.
I finally won one. Eat my cock and balls, you fucking assholes.
That's it.
The one
Have
man
a good night.
who will go naked.
See?
And I'm ending the recording now.